Hello and welcome. I'm Maria Ressa here in Manila. You know, the show is called Hold the Line, where on this side you're good and this side you're evil. That line are your values. And we've had many different people come on the show before, but no one like this woman who has sacrificed so much to hold the line. Please with me welcome Senator Leila de Lima. Leila, welcome to Hold the Line.
Hi, Maria. What a splendid honor for me to be face to face with the Maria Ressa.
Oh my God, this is
Nice
like
to see you.
Very wonderful to see you and to have you at Rappler.
Yes.
You've sacrificed so much. I mean, what did you sacrifice?
A lot. My family. A lot of missed personal milestones. To be able to be out there, interact with people, help them out, pursue more fully, freely, and effectively my core advocacies. You know, my core advocacies: human rights, rule of law, democracy, social justice. And then during the time that I was still a senator, imagine I was only given 8 months out of the 6 official term as senator, the opportunity to fully fulfill to serve my mandate as duly elected senator. So a lot. And then my normal life as a mother, as a daughter, as an aunt, as a friend to many. That was all taken from me. I was robbed of my personal dignity. Pretty painful.
Nearly 7 years in prison, right? By February 24th, it would have been 7 years. And you would have been starting your 8th year. Did you ever think it would get that bad?
To be honest, I never thought that Duterte, my chief oppressor, would go to this extent or length of jailing me. I thought it would just be daily vilification, cursing me almost daily, all those misogynistic attacks against me. I thought he would just be doing that. And then there's all of his subalterns, all of them like a chorus, labeling me as an immoral woman and as a mother of drug lords, drug trade queen, #1 narco politician in the country. Those were the labels that were thrown at me. And I thought, that's just it. No, not to the extent of filing cases, bogus cases at that, and worse, jailing me. And when I was jailed, I thought it's just going to be a few days, a few months, a few years. I thought that since I'm on the side of truth, I thought that I could get immediate legal reprieve from the proper courts, like the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, I did not.
Actually, your case, when we go back over time, right, you were really our country's break point with reality. And our data showed us online, for example, the kinds of information operations that you weathered, the kinds of the weaponization of the law that followed that, right? This was the first time a sitting government of this country benefited from the trust we would give a government. In which case, part of part of what it exploited at that time was that people said, well, there's smoke, there's fire. The government wouldn't file all these cases if they didn't have evidence, right? Obviously, what we're seeing now, as even the witnesses recant, is that it was made up, right? Trumped up charges against you. That break with reality. I want to show you a clip from, this is after you already knew that you had an arrest warrant. So you already knew this. You were already under attack. And this is what you said at the Senate. Let's roll that clip.
Cruel things that are being done to me by the members of the House, some members of the Senate,
And then yung mga cohorts nila sa labas, yung mga operators na yan, yung mga nag-gather ng mga fabricated evidence na yan, hindi ho sila humihinto. Kasi nakikita nila nakatayo pa ako. Kaya I have to continue standing. Because I don't want to give them the pleasure of seeing me beaten. Dahil alam ko po, tama ang pinaglalaban ko.
Leila, almost 7 years you've held that line. That clip was followed a few days later with you quite emotional because again, what did you weather? Not just the online attacks, which no one but you could see. Really, we were being, that was inciting to deep misogyny, but you were also attacked in the Congress. What had these nicknamed climax congressmen. What was going through your mind, right?
Well, first I have to say those emotions, which I just saw, I just recalled that reaction, those emotions are still with me right now. And that statement about I don't ever want to give them the pleasure or the satisfaction of seeing me bitten or my spirit broken, because that is what was their agenda.
Yes.
Their agenda was to silence me. Their agenda was to break my spirit so that I would stop calling out the murderous ways that characterize that sham war on drugs. That's the whole agenda. So that was persistently in my mind the whole time, in my almost 7 years. I'm here, but I'm innocent, but I'm here. I'm innocent because they want me destroyed. But why allow them? So I had to bear with everything. I have to just go through the ordeal, although it had its blessings. Now, so those misogynistic attacks are so painful. In fact, my phone, my old phone, I don't have it. I think it's broken already. That's why I had to buy a new one the day after I was released. My phone received more than 2,000 hate messages, unprintable words. So I had to really throw it away. I mean, it was so painful, and not only me, my son, my second son, because my eldest is a special child with autism.
Yeah.
But my second son is now a lawyer. He would also receive those. It was so painful. He was crying. Yeah. What is this, Mom? Why are they doing this to you? So I have to really bear with all of that so I can show my tormentors that they cannot just do that I'm not breakable.
The scale of the attacks was something that was before inhumanly possible, couldn't have been possible without
Unprecedented.
social media, right? It was the first in our country, and we know this from the reports we've done because we documented the attacks. You were the first. I mean, we've weathered some, but not at the scale. Also because you brought your personal life to the public, right? You had to talk about an affair with your driver. You had to. What toll did that take on you?
Oh, unimaginable toll, because, you know, the labeling as an immoral woman.
Yeah.
I had to also just be honest with myself. I should be honest with myself, because how can I be honest now? How can I be perceived as honest in asserting my innocence about my alleged drug links if I cannot be honest with my personal life? So I have to admit my frailties. I am not without sin. Like anyone else, I'm also sinful. But certainly, I'm no evil woman. And I'm not the kind of woman that they've been portraying, especially at that time.
Yeah. During that time, what we now have a phrase for what happened to you. gaslighting, right? Some of that stuff
Gaslighting, yes.
that deflected the attention to you. You were extremely courageous. Where did you find that courage?
I guess it's in my genes. My father, especially my late father. Oh, I was raised that way.
Moments of fear, moments of weakness. Do you remember any, and what did you do?
No, it's just really part of my training. My dad, it's Spartan way of raising his children. He would always say, you should be ready with all kinds of situations, with all kinds of circumstances.
Yeah.
You can never tell. You know, fortunes and misfortunes of life. You should be able to deal with all kinds of circumstances in your life. So you've got to be strong always, and you've got to learn how to fight always for what you think is right, no matter what the cost is.
You had a chance after you were taken hostage. You had a chance to actually go to house arrest. This was an offer to you.
Yeah.
You chose not to. Why?
House arrest is based on humanitarian grounds. House arrest actually has no legal basis, but of course it's subject to the discretion of the court. Now, house arrest is not based on the merits of the case. To me, it's not vindication. And to me, it would be a political accommodation, and I would be owing debt, political debt, to the powers that be. I want to achieve vindication in the proper way, legally, within the justice system, based on the merits, because I'm confident about the merits of my case. I'm confident about my innocence. And I don't want to be, I have to be blunt about this, I don't want to be in the same category of other leaders who were benefited with those kinds of privileges, house arrest, hospital arrest,
Yeah.
you know. And I kept on thinking about the condition or situations of ordinary detainees, because when you ask for house arrest or hospital arrest, it's premised on health reasons.
Yeah.
You know, serious health reasons. Yes, I have health issues already because I'm already 64 years old, but not serious health issues. Now, I kept on thinking about the ordinary detainees. How many out there are more qualified to avail of privileges like this because they have worse health conditions than me?
I was surprised when you did this on principle, because you could have been in far greater comfort. But she held the line on principle and stayed in prison through the January this year until, because this was offered to you December last year, right? So January until you were released. Let's talk about the cases. I know that there are some sub judice rules, but now we're seeing all 7 witnesses just recanted. And aside from that, you had the Philippines, the executive has always talked about the separation between branches of government. And yet, one of the star witness actually said that he was pushed to testify against you by the former Secretary of Justice, a former Justice Undersecretary, the prosecutor, the very people who would have been your defense, right? Mm-hmm. Who should have been making sure that every citizen gets the rights underneath the Constitution. You're a former Secretary of Justice. Let's talk about these cases and what it's done to our justice system.
Okay, so I have 3 cases. The first 2 had been dismissed already. One I was acquitted, and the other one it was dismissed on demurrer because of insufficiency of evidence.
Yeah.
Now this 3rd remaining case, I'm out on bail, so the case is still there. Now, but it's also weak, and that's why I was granted bail, because if the evidence of guilt is not strong, and especially so that it was the conspiracy, because it's a case of conspiracy to commit illegal drug trading, and conspiracy was not proved by the prosecution. Now, about the recantation. Now, actually, There were just about 2 formal recantations that were accepted by the court. There were 2 other witnesses, personalities who also recanted, but they were never presented in court. But they also talked about coercion. That's why they also mentioned me. They pinpointed to me as a beneficiary
Yeah.
of the illegal drug trade. I'm talking about Kerwin Espinosa, who said that he was coerced by some police elements. And then there were 2 lately, in October, who manifested their intention to recant. They testified before.
Yeah.
They implicated me
Yeah.
in the illegal drug trade. So they're now saying not true, that they want to recant. And then the latest are the 7.
Yes.
Again, most of them, I think 5 or 6 of them, testified in this last remaining case. But since it's only now that they are offering, or they have signified their intention to recant, their recantation has not been considered actually in the grant of bail.
Yeah.
Because in the grant of bail, the judge, after a thorough review of the records, the testimonies, found that, again, the evidence of guilt is not strong. Conspiracy, the prosecution failed to prove the conspiracy, and that it was not enough to frustrate my right to bail. So what more if these recantations are considered?
Yeah.
These recantations, we would assume and we would expect, would now say that what they said about my alleged drug links are all false. I also anticipate, and that is more important to me, they have to disclose to us, to reveal to us how this all came about, who were behind it.
Yes.
How were they really coerced? How were they bribed? Were they threatened? Were their family threatened? Were they promised, let's say, executive clemency? Or maybe all of the above? That's more important to me in terms of my vindication.
And
I want people to know what exactly happened.
Yeah.
I want people to know not only that I'm innocent, that because I was a clear victim of persecution.
Will you demand accountability?
Oh, yes.
What does that mean? How would you describe the justice system that put you in prison and where we are today?
Because you see, Duterte, Duterte was weaponizing the law.
Yeah.
He abused all the powers of the executive in getting what he wants from the judiciary. The removal of former CJ Sereno, and then what was done to me, and then the dismissal of my case, the Supreme Court. I cannot confidently say that Duterte had nothing to do with what happened in those cases.
Right.
Now, especially in my case, I'm absolutely sure that Duterte was behind the filing of these cases. He ordered certain people, his subalterns, to act as handlers of these PDL witnesses, who by certain, for reasons, for whatever reason, for whatever means or motives, were coerced or were persuaded to falsely testify against me. Now, I want Mr. Duterte and all others responsible, the handlers, the operators, the ones who worked on these witnesses, to be held responsible, now especially now that Mr. Duterte is no longer immune from suit. And that is what my team of lawyers is now working on.
You gathered evidence against then Mayor Duterte when you were head of the Commission on Human Rights. I was told that the witnesses were ready to go, right? But then the government decided not to move forward with it because he was a key ally of the government at a certain point. Having said that now, right, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, is looking at the Philippines. Would you help the ICC?
Okay, talking about that. Indeed, since Mr. Duterte has caused a lot of harm to this country, and especially what happened in his so-called war on drugs. His primary accountability now is with the ICC. And I've said this already in many of my interviews now, that I am willing to cooperate, to assist. I will assist in whatever capacity to build the case, the ICC case against Duterte and all others responsible for those senseless killings. And I'm volunteering my experience, if not expertise, on the matter of, the Davao Death Squad, the findings in that inquiry, and then also when I was the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights before I was ousted with the majority of my colleagues.
Yeah.
So, in fact, even if, as much as I can, I intend to pursue this simultaneously, assisting the ICC and at the same time pursuing the cases against Duterte for ordering my persecution. My priority actually is to assist the ICC for justice for the victims, for the families of the victims of the drug war. So that's my priority. So my own cases against Mr. Duterte can probably take a back seat first, if really there would be some real urgency.
Yeah.
And I hope this development now about there's some plan now to consider full cooperation, allowing the ICC probers to come in, which is a good development. I hope majority of the lawmakers would really vote for that measure before the House and ultimately at the Senate. Then if that happens, that is going to be full swing. The investigation by the ICC would be in full swing, and there would be some urgency there. Then I can first focus on that before pursuing my own case against Mr. Duterte.
What former President Duterte did was wield fear extremely well, right? I was surprised. I didn't understand how Marcos the father held power for almost 21 years. Because you need society to actually acquiesce to a degree. And in the case of what I learned from the time with Duterte is fear works. Right? Were you surprised by the silence of your friends? Were you surprised by any of it? And how did you deal with that? Like allies who should have been more vocal. We fell into it as a country. How did this affect you?
Yes, I'm surprised and disappointed. Of course. Mr. Duterte would not be so, bold about doing that weaponization of the law and everything else that he did. If only these leaders, the so-called leaders in the Senate and in the House and others in other institutions were not that pliant to Duterte's wishes. More voices were needed then to keep it in place, or at least to moderate
the checks and balances of a democracy. I mean, the irony is Adam Schiff in the United States, Representative Adam Schiff, said the same thing. He wrote a book where he said that he was surprised at the complicity because in that sense, we allowed it to happen. How would you... I'm sure there were also surprises. Were there generosity of strangers? Were there people who came to your cause that you didn't expect?
One realization in the course of my ordeal is you're now able to know who your real friends are, and not just fair weather friends. There are, of course, personalities that I expected would be at least sympathetic to me. They're not there. But I know that some of my colleagues are sympathetic, but cannot just be out in the open expressing their support for me. But it's truly disappointing because they would have the stature to stand up. They would have the, what? Yes, the stature to do that, to help out a beleaguered ally. And, they know that I was fighting for the right causes. So why be silent about it? And why be scared about displeasing
Yeah.
the one in the palace?
Let me ask you very specifically. I mean, Rappler watched all the hearings purposefully. How do you feel about Manny Pacquiao and Dick Gordon today?
Manny Pacquiao and
Dick Gordon.
Manny Pacquiao, very understandable. He was a newbie, a new-fight senator, and maybe he was just prevailed upon by the majority of our colleagues there to sponsor that resolution for my ouster as the chairperson of that committee. So it was understandable. Now, Dick, but he should have known better. Maybe he had other reasons, but I'd rather not also call him out for that or indict him for that, but he must have reasons. But unlike Manny, he would have been, discerning enough to know then that it was not fair. The treatment that I got from the majority of them, not coming out for my defense, is simply unfair.
How would you describe our politics today, and what role do you see yourself taking? Leila de Lima unleashed now in our politics.
But of course, I'm updated.
Yeah.
In sa detention ko, sa detention area ko, because I receive, I have my papers, the newspapers every day, and I get to have the printed versions of Rappler articles. Now, politics nowadays is exciting, not yet so turbulent. Maybe as the election period nears, it will become more turbulent. But look what's happening now, the cracks in the UNITEAM. And then here is Duterte now offering himself to be the opposition. It's pathetic to me. It's a pathetic scene to me. So I'm not at all right now thinking about politics, but I do have a role. And my role is to continue portraying myself as someone who has been wronged and someone who can continue to inspire others to do what is right, to do what is just.
You seem to have emerged stronger.
Yes,
What lessons do you, if you were to boil to three, how did you come out of this ordeal stronger?
Faith. I have deepened faith in God because of my regular prayers, regular Bible reading, regular contemplative prayers, and then the support of many, support of friends, allies, my family. And the fact that I just, my mindset then is that this is not jail. That's why I had to keep a strict routine.
You kept a strict,
daily routine.
Yeah.
And I made myself very busy.
Yeah.
And of course the cats.
Avatar. I will remember Avatar.
Avatar. Yes, the cats. They kept me company. their role was simply very significant in keeping me whole, in keeping my sanity intact. So it's the mindset is always mind over matter.
Fantastic. Technology and gendered disinformation. Let me pull you back because it isn't just a problem in the Philippines, although the women have definitely been attacked. And in 2017, Rappler's data showed women were attacked at least 10 times more than men online. But what we've seen in our research is that gendered disinformation is the beginning of the cracks, the
Yeah.
attacks on democracy. Any insight from having been really the first fully targeted? After you, it was Lenny Robredo. We've had our fair share of it, right? How did you survive it? Any insights?
Unfortunately, in Philippine society, it's not ready for strong women. There are many women with, there are lots of success stories about women, but we're not ready. The male-dominated a political atmosphere
Yeah.
is not yet ready with strong women.
Despite the fact that we've had 2 women presidents, right? Former President Duterte's rhetoric gave people permission to be their worst selves, right? His misogynistic statements triggered more.
I really don't understand it also. It's simply so frustrating that despite all our efforts and despite the struggles we have, then we have people who seem to be swayed by that kind of mentality.
You've lived through some of the worst parts of our justice system. What gives you hope for the future? How do we come out of this? Can we come out of this stronger?
Well, this administration has to be just so clear about its respect for the judiciary. Because our judicial system can truly work if only its independence is upheld. Now, it happens in my case, and it's happening also to your cases. Your tax evasion cases had been dismissed, right?
Thank God. Yes. I empathize.
And then judiciary needs to be further strengthened so that there would be greater faith that can be reposed by the people. And one way of strengthening the judiciary is appointing truly deserving judges and justices in the higher courts. So this administration just have to be very clear about its respect, because it can always show that this is one of the big differences that it has with the past administration. Because as I said earlier, Duterte, has abused his executive powers to get what he wants from the judiciary.
Yeah. Powerful. The most powerful executive we've had, right? That has twisted the checks and balances or gotten rid of it.
Yes, because there's a study.
Yeah.
I read about it. There's a study that under the Duterte administration, there are more cases that registered successes before the Supreme Court compared to previous administration. The cases filed by the government or the cases filed against the government had been ruled or resolved in favor of government compared to past administrations. So you would see the extent of the hold of Duterte then on the judiciary.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to see that changing, and maybe it's happening now. So it just got to be pursued.
We have to have, at least I do have faith in the justices, hopefully. Let me throw a big one, the last question at you. The world today is on fire. We have what's happening in the Ukraine from 2022. We have Gaza. The Middle East is blowing up. and the Philippines and China.
Yeah.
It's a world
Flashpoints.
on fire. And we have to rebuild our institutions in this country. I guess, what do you see moving forward, not just for the justice system, but for the Philippines, for this new generation coming online at a time when trust is broken?
Very crucial is the electoral system. Very crucial is the voters' mentality. We've got to elect the right leaders. We've got to make sure that the voters realize that electing the right leaders is key to reforms. So let's start with that. And then if we have the right leaders, especially the executive and in the Congress, and then we see presidents who are the appointing authority for the judiciary, then everything will come into place. So it's about electing the right leaders, those who stand for good governance and for noble aspirations and values.
I agree. Leila de Lima, your last thoughts.
I'm back. I cannot say I'm back with vengeance, but I'm back with very high hopes and aspirations. I'm back with renewed energy and with renewed outlook in life, that knowing that I can still do a lot of good for this country, not necessarily in politics, because the reason why I ever entered politics is because I thought I could really institute some real significant reforms, especially in those core areas that I've been focusing
Human rights.
on.
Right.
But now that I'm out, they tried to destroy me. They did not succeed. I'm here again. I'll pursue the same ideals, the same advocacies, and I hope people would realize that I'm doing that for your sake,
Fantastic.
not for my sake.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Leila de Lima. Thank you for holding the line.
Thank you.
Leila de Lima out of prison, less than 2 weeks, stronger than ever. Guys, hold the line. I'm Maria Ressa. Thanks for joining us.